So hello everybody. Today we will be talking about questions/remarks that are targeted towards trans people, usually by cis people.
And we have a couple of guests. Oh, actually, this is Laure. Right
Yes,
here.
this is Laure.
This is Z, your usual podcasters, but we have some pretty awesome guests today. We have Nads.
Hello.
Hi, Nads.
Hello.
And Emmy.
هاي.
Hi, Emmy.
تصور اليوم عم نحكي عن الناس اللي هن ترانس أو يلي عندهم هوية جندرية غير نمطية بالبلد، والأنواع الملاحظات يلي بيسمعوها أو الأسئلة أو التعاطي المجتمع معهم إجمالا كيف بكون صح. أنا اسمي نادز، ناشطة، ومن ناحية الجندر بعرف عن حالي كشخص جندر كوير يلي هي بتوقع بالأمبريلا تبع الناس المعروفين بالترانس، أي إنه شكلهم أو يعني كيف بيعبروا عن الجندر تبعهم أو النوع الاجتماعي تبعهم منه نمطي، يعني بغلبة أوقات بين البنت أو الشاب أو بالنص أو لا أو فمبسوطة كتير إنه عم شارككم بهالحديث.
يا أهلا وسهلا.
Thank you.
Emmy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Emmy. I guess of relevance is that I'm a trans lady, but also I'm identified genderqueer. Just to confuse you a bit, I also tend to think of myself as transmasculine.
Oh my. You have to explain that to me, but
Tell us
what
a
is
little
transmasculine?
But I don't know, Yani. I'm queer and I do a lot of things.
This is the academic definition
Yes.
of transmasculine. I'm queer and I do a lot of things. I like that.
Okay. أنا لور.
غير هيك حبيبي.
أنا trans,
إيه.
but I'm a trans man.
Okay.
And I prefer male pronouns completely.
Okay.
Yes, even though I look like a huge lesbian. But that's okay because there's nothing wrong with being a lesbian.
Thank you.
I should just I should point that out.
Thank you, Laure.
Of course. So shall we just get to it then?
Yes, طيب. We sat and thought about some of the comments يلي بيسمعوها الترانس persons بلبنان. بلبنان بالتحديد. هلا فينا نفوت ب some of them that Emmy must have heard برات لبنان. Yeah. And I think those would be interesting. But let's start with the simplest. انت صبي ولا بنت؟ شو بدكم تعلقوا؟ شو التعليق اللي عندكم اياها هالكومنت بالتحديد؟
في عندي قصة مهضومة صارت معي مش من زمان، من كم جمعة. نقلت على حي جديد وفتت على الدكان، كان في مرة ختيارة وجوزها رجال ختيار، ففتت على المحل بتقلي المرة بشو بساعدك حبيبي؟ بقلها بليز بدي 2 جولواز. فبيطلع فيها جوزها بقلها هبلا هيدي بنت. بتطلع فيه المرة هيك، بتطلع فيه بتقرب، بعدين بتقله وليه شو بيك؟ بعدين بتعتذر مني بتقلي سوري حبيبي هيدا خرفان. واضح انه مش فاهم. فهو بيرجع هو بيطلع فيه هيك بقرب، وانا هيك standing awkwardly smiling waiting for my cigarettes. فهيدا سامبل عن الاشياء اللي بتصير معي دايما، انه الناس بيقروني بطرق مختلفة، ومنا كتير صعب وقت شخص واحد يكون يعني عم بيتعاطى معي. إجمالا وقت الناس يعني فرديا بيتعاطوا مع الناس الترانس أهين بكتير من وقت يكون في 2 أو 3، لأن أوقات بالشخصين 3 كل حدا بيقرأ بطريقة مختلفة، وبعدين بصيروا يناقشوا قدامي exactly، وبصيروا يسألوا أسئلة. والبضحك إنه بيسألوا أسئلة يعني أخذتني يمكن 10 سنين لأعرف جاوب عليها، وهن بدهم جواب كتير سريع. مثلا إنه حتى سؤال تبع صبي ولا بنت، هذا يعني واحد إنه بفكر فيه على كل السنين بروح وبيجي وكذا، والناس بدها سؤال واحد محدد، أو مثلا السؤال تبع ما بعرف العمليات أو مين بتحب أو شو بتاع يعني. لا عندي كتير منهم
هنوصل على فكرة. بس would you like to ask me what my response is?
Yes, Laure.
Well, I also have a very funny story where I was waiting for a cab and then someone on a motorcycle passed by and goes أنت صبي ولا بنت؟
يعني بوقف ليسأل السؤال.
أكيد. It's such a super casual question. He might as well have asked me about the fucking weather, you know. But whatever. And then I just look at him and I just go أنت خرا ولا أخرا? And they had no idea how to respond to that. You know, so as we mentioned in the first podcast, I am always angry. And my responses will always be angry. And that is my story. So, Emmy, what about you?
What's the question again?
Well,
Is
you a boy or is you a girl?
Is me a boy or is me a girl?
إنه when you hear
Right
that,
now?
Well, when you hear that question, kind of, do you have any funny anecdotes? Well, not necessarily.
Well,
funny.
I mean, mostly children are asking this question a lot. And with children, it's always kind of cute. It's like potentially a teachable moment. Because kids are more likely to accept things because they don't have the same level of baggage.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like, oh no, I was a boy, but then I realized that I was a girl, kids will be like, Mashi, okay, you know? Sometimes. Unless their parents have gotten to them. Like at a certain age, you learn that it's not chill.
Yeah.
Like no. So kids for me seem to notice it more and seem to ask more blunt questions, whereas grown-ups are more likely to try to come around in a weird backwards way that ends up being actually like a lot more offensive, or like maybe just make a decision and really stick to it. Like no amount of me being anything could convince you that I'm a woman or a man, depending on the situation. You know?
Yeah, agreed.
That's actually pretty funny because I taught kids for about 5 years. علمت بصيدا وعلمت بقطر, and I had short hair. I had a mohawk actually. And كمان miss انتي صبي أو بنت؟ انت صبي أو بنت؟ And I'd say for the first year before I discovered I was queer, or before I came to terms with my queerness. Yeah, so I was very offended for that first year because, you know, I hadn't come to terms with it myself, so it was like one of the most terrifying questions to be asked even by a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
You're like, what do you mean?
Your skin.
Yeah, you're like, شخصك مس عيب أنا بنت. So أنت صبي أو بنت. So it was fun for that first year, but then, you know, I don't think I've ever been asked by a grown-up. By grown-ups, it's mostly they assume I'm a boy or a girl, depending on my haircut. But yeah, I think my feelings about that question have changed, which leads me to إنه لازم نفوت على أسئلة شوي أصعب. What's your real name?
A lot of people actually ask me that question. They think that the name that your parents give you is the legitimate name, which I fucking disagree with. But, you know, that's just me.
What about divorce?
Do not censor me.
You know, like if you change your name after you divorce, why in that instance it's not your real name? They say what's your maiden name, but it's never the question of what's your real name. It's only your real name if you're breaking the gender law.
Yeah, of course, there's only legitimacy where you are intentionally deviant. You know what I mean?
How dare you, Laura?
How dare I?
بس سؤال هو يعني do you get offended
when people ask me that question? It's, you know, it's sort of like a base reaction when people ask me that question. All they have to know is that I call myself Lore. Why would they need to ask that question? You know what I mean? I do get offended, not at the question itself, but the presupposition that I must have a different name than what I've said. You know, they ought to respect the fact that I have, you know, I am Lore. This is what I've said. Why can't you just take that at face value? Why are you so obsessed with the idea that I must have a name that is congruent to my birth gender?
بس أوقات
You know?
تعرف ليه إنه الناس حشرية. هلا أكيد مش الناس إنه كتير ضد، بس الناس كمان عندها حشرية. يعني أوقات الأسئلة ما بعرف I don't know إذا جاية من مطرح أذى أو جاية من مطرح حشرة أو جاية من مطرح إنه you know they simply don't know إنه ما بيعرفوا وما قصدهم يعني هينوا الشخص بس إنه بدهم يسألوا أسئلة. مثل وقت بيسألوا أسئلة كتير انتروسيف بخصوصية النساء أو كتير انتروسيف للبيبل with disabilities أو فبتصور كمان إنه دورنا إنه نسقف على القليل المجتمع اللي حوالينا يلي open لهو الأفكار إنه ليش بالضبط هيدا السؤال إنه مزعج أو مهين أو
I mean, curiosity versus entitlement. Like, there's some type of curiosity that can be a kind of innocence versus, like, a kind of entitlement that can be, like... It's whether you think you have the right to the answer, sometimes, to me.
Right.
That can inform the way the question is asked. It's a question of, to me, of, like... I understand where you're coming from. It's a question of, like... What do I need to do to be considered legitimate? And I think, as a trans person, the struggle is always... like an uphill battle of legitimacy, whereas like cis legitimacy is granted. And of course, I'm not removing this from larger intersectional context. There's so many battles for legitimacy happening in one body all the time. So it's like, why do I have to be legitimate, and what do I have to do to get there? I don't know. To me, like, so many of these questions are going to be in context. You know, like, the problem is that people think that they can come up to me on the streets or in a service and ask this question. But like, you know, if you're in cis trans relationships, for example, you got to talk about this shit. You know, there's weirdness that has to be dealt with at some point.
Sure.
And so questions need to be asked. It's a matter of trust and respect for me. And in terms of like, who am I attracted to? That's a question that depends a lot on the context. I agree totally with you, like, that gender and sexuality are often conflated.
Yes.
There's an assumption of topness and bottomness. There's an assumption of gayness or straightness. Like, trans women are always going to be straight, and trans men are always going to be closeted lesbians.
Yeah.
You know, this is the stereotype of which very few people fit perfectly. You know, but the people who fit perfectly are welcome to fit perfectly in their own little, you know, weird identities that we all have that are all mixed up. But I don't know. I don't mind the question of who are you attracted to, because it can be said respectfully. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Sure, I think I agree. Like, it can be like, you know, if it's someone I know and if someone I'm familiar with and they ask me that question, just pure curiosity, who are you attracted to? Maybe they think I'm attractive. Maybe they want to know if I'm attracted to them. But really, I don't appreciate that question from people I've just met.
I think يعني مثل ما أمي كانت عم تقول there's an assumed heterosexuality ما هي بالناس الترانس وإلا
why would you assume you're attracted to femme
أكيد وإلا شو يعني ليش يعني وإلا ضلك بنت أو ضلك صبي إذا you're attracted to it, you know, the same يعني there's an assumption about it.
سكرت سؤال okay هيدي what's the point يعني مثلا if I were to say I wear a strap-on in bed then why
and
is
elsewhere
yes يعني I was asked by a family member إنه what's the point, like why isn't she with a man, why is she with you?
إيه أظن إنه إنه هو كمان أسئلة they play into the insecurities of queer folk كتير. so الناس اللي بتفكر إنه بحس الناس الكويرز هن كمان بيسألوا حالهم هذا السؤال كتير كمان الناس الترانس لأنه إيه إنه المجتمع نمطي بهالطريقة إنه يعني نساء let's say بتحب الرجال إذا فيها تكون مع رجال خلقان رجال ليش بتروح تكون مع حدا ترانس يعني إذا هي منجذبة للرجولة بهالطريقة المعينة ليش بدها تنجذب لرجولة معبر عنها على جسم منه رجال فنصور سؤال كتير مهم وهلأ أكيد ما بوافق مع هذا السؤال أبدا إنه في كتير أسباب ليش الناس بتنجذب لناس تانية وعند عند معظم الناس يمكن بيسألوا حالهم هذا السؤال وبأدي لكتير من ما بعرف واحد ما عنده ثقة بالنفس أو ما عنده سيلف استيم عالي أو بضل في insecurity أو بضل حاسس إنه لا صاحبتي رح تتركني كرمال حدا you know بدني نمطي أكتر إيه ما بعرف إنه سؤال مهم بحسه لإلنا نحن الناس ومش مهم الناس تسألنا إيه بس مهم بمجتمعنا نحن.
I mean, I have this unpopular opinion in trans communities.
Do tell.
Laura's looking at me like,
Don't pay attention.
oh,
to me.
Habibti. Oh.
Don't pay attention to me. I have vocalized that I am already tipsy. So I always seem standoffish, but please go ahead.
No, handsome.
Wow.
One of the things that I've seen happen is trans people have a lot of trauma in general. So many of us have been sexually assaulted, are either consensually or non-consensually doing sex work, are like living a variety of dangerous situations and have experienced a lot of stuff. And to that extent, when every day, all day, you're getting misgendered, it builds this deep pain. And especially in the years when people are just coming out, this pain is explosive. It's like a fire. And so one of the things that I've seen happen is like different version of well-meaning white people, well-meaning cis people, you know, who make what could be considered a small mistake, but in the context of a lot of trauma, it explodes. And what we have is a situation where sometimes even good allies can become alienated by like a situation where they're really aggressively, where a trans person is really aggressively protecting themselves in a way that's understandable, but can also like be harmful. You know, we don't always have the space for calling in. Sometimes the best we can do is to like say fuck you, but yani, it's like a balance.
Well, this is what I imagine a lot of these questions lead to. Like, هذا اللي عجبني بالديبيت اليوم إنه عنا هون very fuck you view coming from a young trans man who is, I think, in the fire that Emmy was just talking about, and then we
which
have
is legit,
very legit, maximum, and then we have Nads who I think has been through the ringer. And how old are you, Nads? Do you mind if I ask?
I'm 34.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of رقت شوي in that sense of like wrapping your head around these questions a little more differently.
هلا بحس كمان انه اوقات للاسف في burden of educating بيوقع على يعني كتاف الناس اللي هن بقلب يعني بفهم انه طيب ما بعرف المرة يلي هي single mother, let's say, she has to always answer the questions about انت لحالك وحرام وكذا وهيك وهي بتاخد على عاتقها انه تسقف الناس اللي حواليها. فبتصور السؤال هو انه الشخص يلي عم تتعاطي معه هل بيستاهل انه you know your time and your effort. وانا مع لور 100% انه اذا مش حاسس انه هذا الشخص حرزان اكيد هذا اللي وقف على الموتو وعم بيسالني انا مش مش علي صح. بس مع يعني مثل ما كانت عم تقول امي مع الالايز تبعنا او المجتمع اللي حوالينا كمان ثقيل شوي انه نلبكن بانه ولو ما بتعرفوا هالشيء او ولو كيف تحكوا هيك. لا خلي الناس تسال، ما زال في هالنوع من الثقه او التراست انه حدا عم بيسال كرمال عن جد يعرف او يتثقف.
Hey, but there's a difference. Like, I recognize the difference. I know when someone is asking me a question out of pure curiosity, and when they're asking me a question out of pure fucking maniac. I know the difference. I have been out long enough to recognize the subtleties between the tones. You know what I mean? Like, it's a fucking insane that the maniac questions outweigh the curiosity questions. You know what I mean? Which is why I'm so angry all the fucking time.
So how do you feel about you're so brave?
You know, so many people have told me that. I don't know. When people tell me I'm really brave, I understand that their heart is in the right place. Like, I know what they're trying to say, but at the same time, like, why are you reducing me to my identity? Like, I get it. I really do. But at the same time, I'm not just transgender, you know, like, I fucking like to paint, I like French cheese, I like other, you know what I mean? Like, why do I have to be so brave because I'm trans? And it's kind of the same comment that gay people receive. Gay people who are out, whatever that means, right? Like really flamboyant gay men or fucking butch lesbians. Like, why are we called brave? Why
Because
can't we
you
just
are-
be?
Because I mean بعرف انه هون
Hey.
انه sorry بس عم بتحط حالك in harm's way by just being yourself because we belong to yeah go on.
So, like, for me, I understand the brave question because it's like, it's someone saying, what a lot of people feel is they have there's ways that people relate to trans people that they feel like there are things about themselves that they don't reveal, that they're scared to reveal. And when they see somebody revealing something very true to them, they think, oh, you're brave for revealing something true to you. There's this aspect. But like, for me, it was like, it wasn't so brave as much as it was like suicide, or I try this thing that might get me killed. You know what I mean? And like, this one was a little bit better, so it wasn't really that brave. It was just kind of like a short-term survival tactic to come out, even though it was dangerous. But like, there are things in my life also that I consider being more brave. And then maybe this is some of what you're trying to get into. Like, there are other things about me that are brave. Like, you know, maybe the way that I you know, I don't know, but maybe the way that I love or the way that I communicate could be considered brave. You know, but that's not obvious.
Right? Yeah, not as obvious as transness is.
هلا I really like what you're saying. I think it's very smart. بس كمان أنا I don't really أنا صراحة I think being trans is very brave. هلا إنه لور إنه واحد إجا يقول لك اليوم إنه يي حبيبي you're so brave. أو إنه أو بمعنى إنه حدا so condescending عم يجي يقول لك إنه يي شو حلو برافو عليك.
Oh yeah.
إنه برافو عليك you didn't يعني crawl under a rock for the rest of your life. أو إنه بس كمان للصراحة it is very brave إنه فيها شجاعة كتير كبيرة إنه الحدا هلا أوكي منا شيء إنه حبيت اللي عم تقوله أمي لأنه هي فعلا خيار بين حدا إنه ينهي حياته أو حدا إنه يعيش حياته بالطريقة الوحيدة اللي قادر يعيش فيها بهيدي الدنيا أو يكون فيها بهيدي الدنيا. بس كمان إنه أنا بقدر كتير الشجاعة تبع الناس يلي بدها تكون وبدها تكون بالايدنتيتي اللي بدها اياها وعم تقبل ما تساوم وعم تعمل معارك كتير صعبة مع الأهل، مع النظام القانوني، مع الأكاديمية، مع السيرفيس كل يوم، مع بالمدرسة، بالجامعة، بالشغل. يعني الشغل يمكن أصعب شيء للناس اللي هن ترانس، إنه كيف بدك تفرجي هوية، كيف بدك تفرجي بطاقة، كيف بدك تجيبي شغل وأنت مش قادرة تفرجي يمكن الإخراج الآد تبعي، أو كيف بدك ما بعرف إنه تنتقلي محل لمحل والعسكري يسألك للأيدي. يعني كمان في شجاعة، وهي أنا بتصور إنه هاي الشجاعة لازم نقدرها ونذكر فيها ونعبر عنها كمان.
I agree and I think universally يعني مش عم نحكي بس بكونتكست لبنان إنه بدها شجاعة. I understand it's a universal struggle بس إنه let's talk about بلبنان الواحد بده يكون شجاع يمسك ايد صاحبته بالطريق. عم تحكي like you're putting yourself up against the law very outwardly, a law that is very aggressive and abusive. And so there is a form of bravery to it. Yes, if it's I'm just going to agree with everything Nad said in terms of like condescending versus, you know,
sincere
and a validation of, you know, I see what you're doing and I think it's fucking fantastic. It doesn't reduce you to just that. عنا الزناخة اللي بتيجي مع إنه simply حدا بيشوف إنه أنت أو أنت trans and they assume something happened to you. Right? It can't just be who you want to be or who you are. It's something bad.
Your parents.
حدا اغتصبك. Were you molested? ما كان عندك بي بالبيت. خيك كان مأذي. Do we have some of those?
May I?
You may.
May I interject? Well, when I came out, I had a lot of people who were asking me, do you think that you might be a trans man because your father wasn't available? Well, no. Because so many people's fathers aren't available and they don't end up being trans. Like, why is it that I have to be a trans man because I didn't have a proper father figure? And you know, it works both ways. I was just talking about this earlier. where with a trans man it's like you didn't have the proper father figure, so you had to make up for that lack.
Or your father figure was too abusive and you hated masculinity.
Yeah. Like,
So,
it could go either way, honestly. If you're a trans man, your father wasn't there, so you had to be a man. Or, you know, like, your father figure wasn't good enough. Or, you know,
your mother wasn't there.
Your mother wasn't
anything,
there.
really? Just what could have made you like this?
Exactly. It's all about making sense of you as a trans person.
أنا شايفة شيء عم يصير بوجهي.
Nads.
I'm worried about sounding like the old man.
No
the
pun intended.
old school annoying opinions.
Yeah.
بس للصراحة يعني إذا إحنا إنه موافقين كلنا إنه الجندر بتتكون، يعني gender identity بتتكون نحن وصغار، نحن وعم نكبر we're exposed to things, we take on things، في أشياء بتنفرض علينا مثل شو لازم نحب، شو لازم نلعب، كيف لازم نتصرف، كيف لازم كذا. فنحن متفقين إنه الجندر بيتكون صح من قبل ما نخلق حتى يمكن، ومن اللحظة اللي بنخلق فيها بقرر الحكيم إنه إذا في بينس هيدا صبي، إذا ما في بينس هيدا بنت. فبتصور بالتكوين تبع الناس في يعني هويات بناخدها او بنفكر فيها او بنرتاح اكتر فيها، يعني بنرتاح اكتر نمارس ما بعرف نلعب لعبة معينة، او نرتاح اكتر in the company of ناس معينين، او نرتاح نلبس هيدا التياب او ما نلبس هيدا التياب. او انا وصغيرة اطلع بالمراية لابس ما بعرف يمكن شورت وتي شيرت وكيكرز، بحس هيدا انا اكتر. اطلع بالمراية بشوف انه لابس فستان بتضايق كتير، او ما بعرف اتعاطى مع هالشي، انا بحسه مش انا. فالتكوين تبع انا بيجي بمراحل كتيرة، بس اكيد ما خاص ما في يعني فورمولا للناس الترانس، ما في فورمولا انه هيك صار معكم therefore هيدا، والا مثل ما عم بقول لور كان كل الشعب يعني بيلحق ذات الفورمولا. بس ما بيعني كمان بذات الوقت انه ما في تكوين جندري معين صار معنا، وخيارات معينة أخدناها، وكمفورت معين حسيناه إنه نعبر عن جندر معين أو ما نعبر عن التاني. وحتى إذا الأولاد الصغار هالقد بيواجهوا مسخرة وبولينج وخبيط وكل يعني من أصحابهم لأهلهم للمعلمات بعيطوا عليهم هالقد، they try to regulate them هالقد، وبرضو هن مش قادرين يكونوا إلا إذا تخطوا هيدي الريجوليشن. هالقد عم بيتحدوا شيء وعم بيواجهوا كتير عنف ليتحدوا، يعني هالقد تكون عندهم هذا الجندر ايدنتيتي وهن بحاجة انه يعبروا عنه. بعدين وقت نكبر بتصير اسهل شوي، لانه يعني واحد بيستقل، بقرر، بغير اسمه، بيلبس شو ما بده etc.
And aside from like without co-signing the bullshit, there is a lot of sexual violence, especially child sexual assault in trans communities. And I'm not sure if it's so much one way. I think it's less likely to cause the trans as is caused by the like gender ambiguity of trans children and the weird like fetishization of a number of aspects of gender ambiguity and like a culture of structural like that enforces certain kinds of pedophilia or encourages it amongst certain classes of people. And so we do also have this struggle where a lot of trans people have experienced child sexual assault, and the stereotypes about this and the stereotypes about like also like that trans people grow up to be pedophiles, or that trans people a huge part of trans exclusive radical feminism is the idea that trans women are trying to rape women. They're just men trying to infiltrate feminism in order to rape women.
Yes.
Wow.
And so but this is from a book called The Transsexual Empire that basically believes that trans people are running and building an empire, which yalla بس no.
بس هيدا الاتيتيود انترستينج، لان كمان بالقانون بلبنان القانون يعني سبيسيفيكلي بجرم انه الرجال يفوت على حمام نساء او على حيلا سبيس اكشلي هو للنساء جاي القانون من مطرح انه الرجال رح يستغلوا انه يعملوا حالهم نساء ليفوتوا على محل ويتحدثوا بالنساء، فهو جاي يمكن من مطرح يحموا فيه النساء بس كمان بأثر على trans women.
You know, actually, can I make a comment about that? I've had people tell me, I remember one story specifically where I told a cis man, actually, that I was a transgender man. And he told me, oh man, that's so fucking awesome. That means that you can get into like women's lockers and shit. Not only did he assume that I was straight, even though I never explicitly said so, but he fucking, you know, deviated the entire conversation to be about his own sexual perversion, in that I am a trans man who can watch cis women undress, and that I am so fucking lucky.
A lot of the like expectations and policing that happens around bathrooms actually comes from a place of paranoia that trans people will represent the larger heterosexual rape culture.
This is very true.
Like, it's like, if I was trans, I'd be a rapist.
Yes.
I'm trans and I'm not, you know?
Yeah, it's totally, like, I am not a fucking rape. What do I have to say to prove that I am not a rapist? It's actually, like, comments from cis men particularly that really bother me. Like, because I identify as a trans man, and I have so many cis men tell me things that are so fucking disturbing. But it relates to cis men, not to trans men necessarily.
And to misogyny.
Yeah, it is misogyny, and it's patriarchy, and it's all of these things that work. But yeah, I mean, that's just me. I don't know.
هلا أنا بحس في generational gap قوية بيني وبين لور، لأن أنا my experiences مع
Well, let's go ahead.
See, sounding like an old man. بس
The best old man.
أنا الإكسبيرينسز تبعي مع السيس مان هي شوي منا هاي فايف. يعني ما بحياتي بتذكر إنه سيس مان إنه كمان ما بحياتي أنا I come out as trans، لأنه ترانس موجود. يعني منه شيء أنا بحكيه أو بقوله، لأنه إنه you know people see it and they read it in different ways. فالشباب إجمالا ما بيعملوا لي هاي فايف قد ما بيعملوا لي categorization بوحدة من كذا شغلة مقبولة. واحدة منهم إنه أنت معنسة، واحدة منهم إنه أنت مسترجلة، which in our culture interestingly enough is sometimes accepted, yeah, sometimes not. إنه
If you're not a threat, it's accepted.
if you're not a threat أو إذا يعني بسموا شكر أوقات، شكر هي البنت يلي كتير قبضاي، أو حسن صبي، أو أخت رجال، أو there's all these expressions يلي ما بهينوا قد ما expressions تبع أكيد trans women أو الرجال يلي بيلبس ما بعرف الأنوثة بطريقة معينة. فبحس إنه السيس من بالضبط كتير حساسين على كل شيء، حساسين. يعني الحساسية طبعا بتبين بعنف وبأجريشن، بس عن جد so fragile مثل كتير fragile. إنه اللي عم بيقوله هيك للور إنه عم بيتبناه كأنه صار حدا من البروز، وإيه مان بصير في إنه أنت لازم يعني لازم أوكي فيك تكون صبي، بس here is your acceptable behavior، هيك لازم تتصرف. أنا تفوت على الحمام وتفرج على البنات إنه
Okay, you can be a man, just keep up the act and don't make us look bad.
Yeah, just like, you know, check out all
ومشان
the
هيك كمان
systems.
في كتير بسموها ترانس مان دوش بجري. No really it's a term. ففي كتير ترانس مان يعني ولا أخرى من هيك تصرفات ذكورية، بس كمان لأنه هيدا النمط يلي بدهم القالب اللي بدهم يساعوا فيه، مثل كمان الترانس ومن يلي traditionally بيلبسوا نوع من الفيمينينيتي أنا ما بشوفها ولا مرة. إنه يعني مش اكستريم، بس إنه فيمينينيتي هالقد معلبة مثل المجتمع، أو they adopt names يلي هن diva names or star names، لأنه كمان هاي الأنوثة هيك بنشوفها، ما بنشوف الأنوثة مثل ما كتير النساء بتعبر عنها، بس إنه بتبقى معلبة. فكمان علينا نحن ككوميونيتي ترانس إنه نكسر شوية هول القوالب ونناقش كمان بين بعض إنه إيه طيب انا بدي اكون ترانس مان. شو يعني مان بالنسبه لإلي؟ شو هو يعني ترانس ماسكولين؟ شو هي الماسكولينيتي اللي انا بدي اعبر عنها؟ وكيف بدي واجه البرو ماسكولينيتي هاي تبع الشباب تبع نحن الكذا هيك؟ مهم.
طيب أنا عندي سؤال أمي in particular. هيدي I don't know if you've heard this one, but how could you be a woman if you don't get your period and give birth? Have you ever had that?
So I like mostly dating women and mostly dating cis women. I'm of the belief that trans and cis people have to engage in really difficult conversations with each other. We don't get to just take I don't get to offer you an easy answer. There are a lot of trans women who will disagree with me on this because it's a really sensitive issue and I'm open to being wrong. But for me, it's just complicated. For me, it's a question of what is femininity. Basically, second wave feminism was really important. And it validated women and cis women's bodies in really important ways. But it was a lot of the foundation of that was the idea that there is some essential thing that's called womanhood, that is woman, some essential category that is woman and femininity, and that everything else can be built from that. And in the process, they missed a lot of things. And there became this idea that trans men were actually self-hating women, and that black feminism was not real feminism, international feminisms were not real feminisms, because why would you even bring up race? We're just talking about women. You know, women, that thing. Maybe if we keep talking about it, it'll get realer, you know? And so
look what's happened now with that. And you've got Hillary Clinton running on a women's ticket, on a feminist ticket for president. And a lot of women buy into that still, no?
Even though the Clintons are like solely responsible for so much of the prison system. I mean, but the point is, we don't have such stable categories of gender, but we still have a responsibility to respect people's relationships with them. And so the categories aren't fixed, but people are still going to have really intimate relationships with them. And identity is it has a strongly subjective aspect. And it has a strongly experiential aspect. Because you can look at someone and be like, you don't look like a man. You don't look like a woman. And you're like, dude, what's a woman look like? What does a man look like? And regardless, I told you I am, so I am. You know?
Okay. So then how do you deal with feminists? You guys told me feminists asked this question. How can you be a woman or a man when gender is a social construct?
Well, this is the same kind of issue. It's like, okay, let me put it like this. This is how you sound when you say that. How can you say something's racist? Race is a social construct. You see how stupid that sounds?
Sounds pretty stupid.
But at the same point, we can acknowledge the way in which things are socially constructed, while also dealing with biological phenomena, while also dealing with subjective experiences. The point is, we can have complex conversations. We don't have to just stop at simple conclusions.
ناس
بالعربي بحس صح. انا مثل ما عم تقول امي في كتير من بس كمان هو المشروع النسوي كان بكتير من المحلات عم بيطرح انه خلينا نعقد الجندر. Let's complicate gender, right? Let's break شوي انه people are only women or men. فبفهم انه اوقات بيطلعوا بالترانسكشوالز انه طيب ليه هيك عم تعمل؟ انه ما نحنا we're trying to break these boxes. ليش رايح على هالبوكس وليش هالقد مهم لإلك to pass as a man؟ وفي كتير بالqueer community they look down on people who want to pass, right? Why would you pass? لا, live in the middle and challenge perceptions. فكمان العاتق تبع هالبردن انه انا وقفت علي, انا I want to challenge all perceptions, it's my job every day. يعني بس يعني مثل ما عم تقول أمي إنه كل هالconversations مهمة كتير, لأنه إيه شو معناته هتكون رجال, شو معناته هتكون مرأة, واللي حابة تعرف عن حالها كامرأة هالقد مهم بالنسبة لها هالشيء, يعني ضروري نقيد. واللي بده يكون شاب ويعرف عن حاله انه هو شاب، وبهالتعريف هو عم يرجع يعيد معنا انه شو معناتها يكون شاب. كمان نحن لازم نكون عم نقيد، ما لازم نكون عم a lot of times بتيجي من البريفيليج تبع السيس كويرز كمان انه لا ما اعملي هيك، انه ليه ما بتعملوا هيك. انه بالنهايه هذا قرار كل شخص، وقرار هالقد فردي، وقرار بيتعلق بهيستوري انا شو حابب كون بهالحياه، يعني وين حابب مطرح يكون، انه على الطريق وبالشغل ومع الناس ومع الاصحاب اتسترا. ولإلي قرر كمان، ولإلي اذا ما بدي يا خيي انا بدي I want to pass وبدي رب دقن بدي شوارب وما إلكن معي كمان. هيدي حرية الخيار للناس نحن لازم نحترمها.
It's easy to not want to pass. It's easy to look down on passing when you're not worried about your safety or your next meal.
صحيح.
I think we can maybe wrap things up with one last difficult question.
Surgery.
Yes.
العمليات اللي تنسألوا عنها quite often I think no.
أكيد.
طيب مين بده يبلش؟
أنا ببلش إذا بدك. Well, usually people ask me, have you had the surgeries yet? The thing is why are the surgeries necessary for me to establish my transness? Like, why do I have, why should I remove my breasts or, get a penis so that I can be validated as a man? Why can I not be validated as a man without the surgeries? That is a very important question.
I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of very direct answers to that.
Nads, answer me.
Directly.
Answer me now, Nads.
هلا اكيد ال most interesting thing is كيف الناس وقت يفكروا بالترانس بيفكروا دغري بالاعضاء التناسليه
مزبوط،
وجودها او عدم وجودها. يعني انا بحس ان الناس على الشارع وقت تغلبت في اجمالا خاصه كتير بالشعرات، مثل ما كنت زي عم تقولي انه انت تقص شعرك قصير بصير في طول وانا بلاقي في 3 اشياء بيطلعوا فيها خاصة الترانس ماسكولين people. أول شيء طول شعرك، تاني شيء إذا ما عرفوا they're confused they look at the chest area، إذا في صدر ما في صدر they're confused about the chest area بيطلعوا بالدقن إذا في دقن أو ما في دقن. فلقلي أنا فظيع قد إيه الفيشل هير هالقد عند الناس it's important. فأنا كمان وقت الناس تتخلبط أو تفكرني صبي، بتفكرني صبي صغير عمره 16 أو 17 سنة لأنه ما في شعر ما في هيدا، مع أنه في تجاعيد وفي شعر أبيض بس. فالسؤال تبع السيرجري ما بعرف كمان إنه هيدا أنا بلاقيه offensive لأنه هالقد intrusive إلا إذا كان صديق كتير عزيز عم يسألني. بس حتى الصديق العزيز لا، إنه هيدا سؤال هالقد intrusive وهالقد انه خاصه بالميديكال وخاصه بالسايكياتريك وخاصه بكتير قصص ما لازم تفرق، يعني ما لازم تفرق ابدا.
Wow, Nads finds something offensive.
هيدا
you can high five Nads.
I am slow clapping. Yalla.
Nads is
high five. Nads disagrees with something.
Still calm, but I find it offensive.
You know what? Like
Nads is reading a book by the way as he answers this question.
I find it super fucking offensive, but that's just me.
I could drone on about this for a while, but I guess I'll leave like my point with just something really simple, which is that, and I think that I can speak for a lot of trans people on this, but maybe not, we'll see. We don't want to have to prove to you that we're legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
The whole problem is a constant uphill battle of legitimacy, and also of who gets ownership of, who gets to control what is considered legitimate. And this isn't just a trans problem. This is a problem in so many aspects of society, and it's a problem that I think a lot of people can relate to. And so I think it has the potential to be fodder for conversation, for really intersectional conversation.
Okay. that might be our next podcast, no?
Maybe.
May very well be.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Well, this is Lauren.
This is Emmy.
This is Ned.
And this is Z.
Saying goodbye until next time.